This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
I'm just going to be full confession because everybody that's been listening to this show for the last 8 years, I've never interviewed anybody with less than 10 years on screen time. But I saw Origin and I had to know the rise to where you've gotten to in just such a short amount of time to be able to work with some of the greatest filmmakers and on some of the most unique stories. Okay, so then how do you go from MMA to modeling? Does somebody just pluck you out of the crowd and says, here's another career for you? Or was this a pursuit on the side?
I didn't. My mom made me stop. Because I don't know. It's weird. When you go to, I think, boxing or kickboxing, a lot of times people just want to punch your head off. But MMA, I don't know. It's almost like it's more like play fighting because the gloves are that much smaller. The only thing with that is that Velcro of the gloves gives you a lot of scratches in your face and all that. So it just wasn't professional. And then I just started modeling part-time next to studying. And my mom was like, listen, what if you book a job? I'm like, they'll let you know. You have a couple days. You can stop training. It'll heal. And then the first thing I got was like an overnight job. Like, oh, hey, you got to go tomorrow. You booked it. No heads up. And my mom was like, okay. And I had like all these scratches on my face and all that. And it heals in a couple days, but not in one day. So she was like, all right, you're going to go to like our version of Macy's and you're going to go to the makeup store down there. I'm like, what am I going to do there? Like, yeah, you're going to get makeup and then have them fix your face. I don't.
Okay, so then does modeling just start taking off and you're getting job after job? Because some of these campaigns, L'Oreal, Ralph Lauren, Hugo Boss, it doesn't feel like your mom made a good call for you. So these jobs are just kind of flying in at this time?
By the time I got to MMA, it was just a hobby, But no, I was studying. I was doing my bachelor's in business administration, and I was modeling part-time, which was great. You make some money here and there. And when I had a semester off to travel, I went to travel for modeling. I got my bachelor's, got my master's, and then I was like, I'm done. I want to go on an adventure and I want to give this a shot. So I gave myself a year to reach the top. And if not, I would go back to corporate. And I traveled through Europe, finding different countries to work from and meeting these agencies and clients. And by the end of that year, I got invited to New York, which is the top market in the world. So I did achieve my goal, which was great. And then I had an amazing year here in New York and Europe. Traveled. I think I must have flown twice around the world a year in terms of mileage, which was a very interesting experience. And that now it's a bit less with acting, but it's still quite like that. And 2 years in, I was like, this is great, but it's hard to move the needle myself. It's very much up to my agents, and I want something that I have more influence over, and I need a new challenge. And acting found its way on my path.
Okay. So then do you step into a class, or how do you bridge from modeling? A lot of people do bridge from modeling into acting quite effortlessly. What was your bridge? Was it a class? Was it somebody being like, you know what, let's just test you out in some commercials and see, because your resume doesn't necessarily start in a novice place. It lands you in some sets where you have responsibility and a lot to start. If you don't know what you're doing, you could kind of flounder. And we know you know what you're doing because it's job after job after job that's coming. So what bridges the gap for you between modeling and acting?
I don't know if I would look at it like that. In one way, yes, because I was a model and I was like, hey guys, honestly, I would love to do TV commercials there because I heard there's money there and you guys aren't really getting me those. Can you give me an agency that would get me that? Okay, cool. We'll set you up with some agencies to do that. Great. I don't know. So they got me meetings with CESD, Abrams, and Innovative. I didn't know, right? Mm-hmm. So these are like top level agencies. And I went in and then, like kind of like you could make a choice which one you go with. I'm like, all right, cool, Innovative, because they have a voiceover department. Who knows? And I'm in there and I was in there, I think, it was before acting classes. I was in there before I acted. I was in on the commercial side. They didn't get any auditions whatsoever, nothing. Like, I think later on, once I started acting, I had a couple maybe, which were both callbacks. But I started taking acting classes.
Which
And I was like,
class?
oh, I went to Dina Levy first. I thought there was some cool stuff there, but I needed something different. And then I found Susan Batson Studio, who that was some serious New York rigorous training. That was insane.
It allows, I feel like a lot of people, I came from sports. If you come from a sports background and have that kind of mentality, you need that kind of rigorous training to start to understand how to integrate and get into your body that you've done so much in the past with your athletic background, but now integrating that in with story and words and melding the two, that it worked for you. Because I mean, let's just start.
Say one more thing.
Yes,
Just
please.
finish up the last thing. So, what kind of sport did you do?
Soccer.
Ah, we call it football, but you know.
Yes, football. Yes, I
Hey,
did football and track.
yeah,
Hmm.
and that's awesome. That's like respect. I got an agency. That was my easy part. I got into acting because I felt like I had competitive advantages in it. I can't help myself but analyze people. When I talk to people, I struggle to listen to the content of what they say, but I register everything in the way they say it. I can't help but constantly analyze like it's a math equation. I can't help myself. I look a certain way. So there's a marketing value in that, which is great. It's competitive. It's physical. It's like sports. It's right up my alley, and it's a mental challenge as well. So I was like, all right, cool. This might be a good investment for the future. I went into these acting classes, loved it, and one day said, am I gonna home in on this and do it every day? Yes. And from that day onward, it was like every day training, just trying to get the best at this craft. Like you say, if you come from sports, you know either you master this or you don't. And if you don't, you shouldn't be talking. Point
Right.
blank. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? If at that point you're still not getting what you get, cool, okay, you've done everything you can do, or it's a marketing thing that you need to think about. This thing also hit me. I'm like, great, cool. These acting classes are great. I'm getting better at it. But if I don't have an American accent or if I don't have a work visa, I won't be working. So I had to hustle my butt off to get an American accent. I'm still working on it because when I get tired or whatever, like, you know, my Dutch accent comes out, I have to work my ass off for it. And still, like 5, 6 years later, 8 years, that got the work visa. All of that is hours and hours and hours of training and $15,000 to be able to do what an American can do for just getting up in the morning. So that's that part. That's that part of the hustle. And then I knocked on Innovative Store. I know I'm on the commercial side, but can I audition for the theatrical side? They said no. I first auditioned and they
You
said
did.
no. I said, what do I need to do to be able to be good enough? Okay, cool. Go study with these people. I came back. They're like, listen, we can give you auditions every. I'm like, I know, just give me another shot. Did it again. Still wasn't good enough, but they're like, all right, cool, whatever. We'll start sending you things. And
Pause right there.
that's
When you
kind
say
of
not good enough, is that because you're trying to close the validation loop of like you didn't get it? When you say not good enough in the audition, where were you feeling like you were falling flat? Or where's that
I
judgment?
didn't say it. My agent said it.
They
It
said it?
wasn't good enough. Yeah, but well, we'll give you a shot. As amazing as she was, she just told me straight up, like, nah. And later on, I knew, like, I came from a very character based and emotionally preparation based school. I trained there for like 3, 4 years. So I thought, like, you have to cry all over an audition, and that's just not how it works. You have to tell a story. And that's what I had to learn over the course of these auditions. And then, 90 auditions in, you're like, oh yeah, wait, I'm getting better at this. And it wasn't about booking for me. It was about, getting better at this craft. I want to be the best actor that I could be. And these auditions help with it.
Right. I'm loving this. Okay, so what audition, where does it finally click for you?
What part? I think I know what you're saying, but I want to be
Yeah.
specific.
Well, no, the audition. I mean, look, auditioning and being on set are two totally different muscles. And so, like you said, 90 auditions in, when is it finally, even that audition where you're like, okay, now I get what's happening. Now I know even if you didn't get it, do you know when the tide turned for you as far as like, now I'm getting how to do this. Now I'm getting how to approach story. Now I'm understanding.
I think in general, your level starts growing, and at some point, you start performing at a certain level where you can deliver a certain quality. One day might be better, one day might be less, but you're on that level, so you understand it more. One specific audition for me was when I worked with my old teacher, like we did a private, worked on it. We had a class before that I brought in the character coincidentally, and it went so well. Everybody was like, oh my God, some of the best work I've ever seen you do. Like, great, let's do the private, let's invest, I'll prep hard, all that. And we did the audition. And it was an audition for a character that it was a soldier that was lying. He was an actual soldier, like stolen valor, lying about what he did. And then he committed suicide in the second scene by pouring gasoline over him. Sorry, but so I'm in my bedroom with my teacher on the Zoom. One of my best friends on the Zoom was reading with me. Having like a pitcher of water, pouring it over my head. Doing this monologue, being super emotional, all that, and then we sent it in. We did like a million takes. Oh my! Like when you get like gung ho about getting it right. Mm-hmm. Sent it in. The casting director gave a call to my agent and said that's one of the best, I think, acting I've seen. No, she gave a call and said, "Wow, it was amazing." And my agent said like that's like the best feedback I've ever gotten for an actor. But I didn't book the job. Mm-hmm. So there's a disconnect. And I love this stuff, right? As an athlete, like you say as well, it's like you're doing one thing really well, but why isn't it working? So something's off. You need to figure out what's off. And there's a million reasons that it could be, but in terms of how well the audition went, I went back and all this emotional stuff and I'm going to commit suicide, it all worked. But I started being too emotional too early on in the scene. You have to still tell a story. You still have to sit there, have a conversation with people. Something happens, and then all the shit comes out. I sat there from the get-go telegraphing what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that's how you learn. Certain things work, certain things don't.
Well, and I also, going back to sports, I love watching the playback, right? Football players, like American football players, they watch the tapes every week. And now you're coming up in a land and time in which we're all self-taping now. I used to have to go into the room. It'd be hard to go into the room and do that monologue and you wouldn't be able to have something to pour all over yourself. And so actors that are just starting to come up, this is kind of a beautiful place for you to be able to self-tape, go back, assess the tape, look at your gameplay. And so when you get the next audition, you can be like, oh, okay, I know I can do this, I can do this, I can do this better. But even what you were saying, you got the best feedback that your agent's ever heard. The validation loop is no longer booking the job. The validation loop is booking the office because we have no idea. Selection, not rejection. Who knows why you didn't get the part, but you did the part. You did it and you won that office over. So I'm sure you've been back into that office time and time again because your talent allowed you to be there. It's just the puzzle piece maybe didn't. They went with somebody else because that puzzle, they needed X, Y, and Z. Who knows? Who knows?
I don't even know if I think about it along those lines because there's no real interaction with the casting office. Now you get sometimes like, real-time Zoom auditions, but it's not, you just send it in. Mm-hmm. So I just I gave them a great performance or whatever, but I look at that one thing that I kind of was off because the next time, what if you have an audition that has a little bit of a deep emotional part, but the rest is all the other stuff. And now you make the same mistake. The whole audition is off.
Right. I love this. Okay. So you get this, you kill this audition. You learn a lot from this audition. I mean, to get Kim Coleman on your side, Kim Coleman is a tough casting director. So does she bring you, do you get Tyler Perry first or did you get Run the World first? Which role? Tyler Perry first. How is the audition process versus being on set? Because that's a huge budgeted box office film. It's Netflix, Tyler Perry doing Netflix. I'm curious the transition from doing the audition. I'm sure it was on tape as well. Are you back in your bedroom with your acting coach doing the tape for that?
No, because there was no time. I think it was like, if I remember correctly, it came in at like 6:20 p.m. and it was due the next day. And I think it was due the next day. There was an accent. There were 3 scenes, 9 pages. I was proposing to the woman that I was in love with, one of my best friends I had a whole argument with, and there was a fist fight where you have to do the scene around it, you know?
Uh-huh.
It was a lot. It was
It's
a
a
lot.
lot for
And,
a self-tape. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And at that time I was studying Meisner at the Maggie Flanagan studio, and it was during COVID. So it was online. So all I was doing was acting. Like that's it. Like the only times I had off was maybe on a Friday night, or if UFC was on a Saturday, that's it. But I had 3 to 5 auditions a week. I had acting class twice. I had 2 rehearsals with my scene partners. And at some point I started taking extra acting classes, and I did a self-tape feedback class with the last studio that I was at, Susan Batson's. And then you get these auditions, and then, it was like, all right, yeah, 9 pages, get it in. And I did. And the accent started, coming off during scene 3 and all that, but I sent it in. Yeah. And then I didn't hear from them anymore for like a month. And then my agent, it was like Untitled Tyler Perry project. And my agents called me. It's like, hey, yeah, you booked Madea. I'm like, Madea? What, you mean like the Greek tragedy, the play? No, like Tyler Perry, Madea. I'm like, the audition a month ago, guy. Yeah, I got it. Okay. And they're like, yeah, that was great. With all due respect to him, like he pays differently than other projects, especially like at the level at that point that I was at. So that was great. That'll set you up for a bit longer. You still only get to keep 30% after all the expenses, but it was good. It was nice. And then you have a week to prepare. You have a week to prepare. I remember it was so hot. It was like 95 degrees or 90 degrees. I didn't have an AC, just moved into a new apartment. And I was like, all right, I'm getting paid. And I saw across the street they were selling this AC, and I bought it. It was like way too expensive, this big. And like, I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Now at least I can think normally. And then I started prepping, it was a lot. It was a lot. Got the set. I think we had a couple more days to prepare. I called the other guys like, hey, you want to like rehearse some of the scenes? Because it's like boot camp. And yeah, then you get the set. I was so nervous. The accent changed a couple times of what it needed to be. And then during the first scene, it was like, yeah, but it was that, right? And I was like, what? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I had to switch in the first scene the accent. Yeah. And then you play catch up. If you finish scenes early, you start shooting scenes for the next day.
Oh, he's moving scenes up. I like how, yes, fast pace. So you got to be prepared for all of it. But you were practicing how you wanted to play. I love if for the actors that are hearing this, like you said, during COVID times, every day you were working on work. You were working on acting. You were rehearsing. You were learning new things. So getting thrown into a set like this, you are essentially prepared. But I've got 2 questions. Accent work. How are you managing? Because you do so many different accents and you're doing them quite well, or what's getting captured on screen is pretty dynamic. And then some of the interviews that I was watching of you in the last couple of days, you're in different accents in the interviews. So do you like to work, you keep the accent with you throughout the day? Or because how do you, I want to know, how are you working with it? Because I'll be accents are tough for me. Mine all end up sounding like Leprechaun eventually.
First off, it's way more than you would see, because there's all the auditions as well where you have to do a different accent, and then the accent might be good, but you don't book the job. So there's a lot more there. And then if you can do one well, the next one goes better. It's a skill at some point that you start building, and then you get better at it. I have had amazing coaches, different ones. Right now, I'm with Audrey Lacrone, who I think she's done phenomenal work for me. I think she's absolutely phenomenal.
And are you working on the accent first before the material, or working on the material and then adding in your accent?
So I had to work on the American accent, general American. And then I came to Audrey, but we started working on British. So I just showed up in class for a whole year with a British accent. And then Madea, they asked for Irish. I said I can do British. And then in the end, it became Dutch or whatever. They wanted somebody with some kind of weird accent. So Audrey didn't help me out on that one. That was just me. And, yeah. And then the other projects Audrey did help me on, which is great.
I just was curious, your process to anchoring in and feeling comfortable in that accent work.
So it's an evolving craft, and I
Yeah.
love that, right? So in the beginning, I was like, oh, I have to live in this. I have to do it at all times. I wouldn't do that anymore because I think it's weird if you do it in an interview and you're still hashing it out. Like this is, I do try to live in an accent as much as I can. If I'm working on something for an audition, it's harder. But when you book something, I try to live it out as much as I can because it's hard for my brain to think in a different accent, which is annoying. So you have to speak in it so often that it doesn't take any brain power anymore. So now you're free to think and act and all that. Then you need to get it up to a level where it's actually the actual accent that it needs to be. And you need to allow yourself to make mistakes and to sound like an idiot or to sound like, like somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And even if you put in all that work, you can get the set and it's still not what it needs to be. Or you might make mistakes. I've had that as well. Like you think you're doing a great job and you see it and then it's just inconsistent or it doesn't work. Other people might not notice it. I notice it. So, and you have to forgive yourself for that because after that project, you will be so much better in the future. So allow yourself,
Well, that's the thing, the time to grow and change. I always joke around that people, like, let's use Tom Hanks for an example. We don't really see a lot of his earlier stuff because it's wherever went to go die. If you're starting a profession now that's on camera, we get to see people's evolution of their maturity, their comfortability, them starting to work things out. That's what we are as creators. We are creating something. And then the next time we create something else. So we get to kind of see our growth as artists. And I love that. And thank you for being honest about that. I think that helps anybody that's listening, that's evolving or going up the stairs as an artist to have patience with their progress.
Yeah, I still struggle to this day. I'm not a native speaker, so there's certain basic things that I still make mistakes in. But when you have a script, it's easy. You have a script, but there's certain basic things and tonality and all those things in the English language that an Australian, an American, or a British person does automatically that I don't do. So I have to keep those things in mind as well, because otherwise, me doing some kind of Italian accent or whatever, you're still speaking English, it's going to sound weird.
Okay, so Fear the Walking Dead. I want to know about this audition. I want to know how you approach this. You're working opposite Coleman Domingo. It's the first time that they're bringing in a love storyline like this, which is so beautiful. And this is a different casting director, Sharon Bialy. So is this also on tape, I'm assuming?
It's all on tape. Recently, I think almost after the strike, I'd say that I've seen more in-person Zoom auditions. Yeah. But before that, it's all
been tape. It's all been taped.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the transition, then I would think from that tape to getting on set and doing Fear the Walking Dead, what did you take away in your process from working with Coleman, from being on that set? It's a totally different vibe, genre, everything. What was your biggest takeaway for the work after that process?
Got booked right off tape. So that was also a blessing that I speak German fluently, which I invested in a long time ago. So you have this extra skill set. So now that they're looking for somebody who speaks German, preferably somebody who is Black or light skinned or whatever, it does this to the pool that can book that job, which is great, right? That did the audition, booked it, gave it a certain vulnerability, which is great. I had to hold him accountable for what his character was doing. So you have to be direct, but also vulnerable and all that. Got the set, and this is different because if I remember correctly, Madea was like, there wasn't as much of a demand on what kind of accent needed to be. I need to be a travel person. So they were like, just sound foreign. All right, cool, whatever. This was different because it was a very specific German accent, and there was the German, which was still hard, would have been the first time. So I had to show up with all that. And I was still trying to find do you show up with this accent? You talk it 24/7. Is that not weird when you meet people? Because, right. You sound fake, but at the same time, why not just maintain it? But what if you mess up and they hear that you mess up? Are they going to be like, you've been trying to fool me all this time? You won't fully be in. I try to keep a base level of it. And then when I get the set, I turn it up so it doesn't exhaust me. But then sometimes you'll see people look at you as you talk and you can just see them think, right? Yeah. what are you doing?
Yep.
You sound weird. You know, and
Working
you
it
have
up.
to just, yeah, you just have to allow yourself to be like that, you know.
Mhm.
One time we came back from set and it was all blood all over my face. And I just walked into the hotel. I just wondered what it was like just to walk in. And people don't really like, I don't know. So like it calmed me down about the accent as well, and which is funny. But yeah, you know, and it's Coleman Domingo. It's a different beast, you know, a different animal. It's a very lauded, experienced, seasoned actor who just got nominated for an Oscar.
Exactly. That's why I was wondering when you like, when Jasmine and I worked together on Free Ray Sean, we were working with Lawrence Fishburne. He has
Oh
been
yeah.
a seamstress of acting. That's how I refer to him for the last 50 years. So to sit back and watch how he approaches scenes, how he approaches his instrument, how he approaches a set, I gleaned so much from that. That was truly invaluable to my next project, to the next project, to the next. So when you get on these sets and you're working with certain people, I'm just curious your takeaway after working with him or something that maybe you tried to implement in your work, or if it just allowed you to be like, I'm on the right track. What was the takeaway?
It's very interesting because you know you're on set with someone who has a different seniority, so there's that kind of respect that you have, but you also understand I'm here to do a job. As
Mm-hmm.
an actor, it's his story, so I'm here to support his story, and I also have a job towards his character. My character wouldn't be here if his character wouldn't be on the show. So
Exactly.
that's my goal, and that's what I got to do, support. But yeah, there will evidently also be moments, and I learned that before, where your character is going to have to be a burden to their character. You're gonna have to come in and make their life more difficult, you know, or easier, but it's drama, so often it's conflict. So you know, often it's you're gonna make their life more difficult, and you can't be like, oh, this is the person that I respect so much, or is on a different level. You need to come in and mess with them
Mm-hmm.
respectfully so, you know, so that's and it's almost like you lose if you don't, because they yell action and then you have to seriously mess with this other character, and after cut you have to drop it again, and you can't have any reservations about that when you go in. So that was there.
Did you guys
Yeah,
rehearse
and
before? Like with Madea, you were like, oh, do you want to get together? Do you want to rehearse these scenes? Or did you let Coleman kind of do his process? And then, like you said, you come in respectfully so.
no, it's the last one. You know your lines, and whatever the other, you know, larger actor wants to do or not do, that's up to them. You know, you dance to their tune basically. You don't call Tyler Perry and say, "Hey, you want to run lines?" You know, yeah, you don't. You know, you
I
show up
know.
and you know your lines, and that was even what he said at the beginning as well. So with Coleman, you know, you show up, you know your lines, and you try to hash out how this actor works and how you can, you know, be there. And we did run lines, you know, at some point, but I also realized pretty quick, like, oh, people don't do that as much, you know.
I
It's like
know.
you
Uh-huh.
show up and know your lines. Okay, so I mean, he offered, but then I was like, yeah, I have a feeling that, you know, like, just show up and know it, you know.
Especially when you're playing exactly what your storyline is. Some of that is nice to almost reserve for the screen and not over rehearse it in the moment, like you said, in order to challenge him or certain things. So I feel like these onset experiences, they're just more life lessons in the evolution, like you said, of understanding what you're doing with this new career path, how you adapt to people, even you saying how you observe people that serves you so beautifully, not only on screen, but how you are conducting yourself on set to feel out certain people and to be able to work with certain people. It's serving you. It's doing a wonderful job, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a tough question before we get to origin. What's the job that got away? Because you've gotten so many of these jobs that have gone in your direction so beautifully. And I think sometimes when we're starting out and we're on this trajectory of going up the mountain, you've had some nice mountaintops already. But has there ever been a valley moment where you've gotten attached to something or you've wanted something and it hasn't gone in your direction?
I have an annoying habit of doing this, so forgive me. The Coleman thing, there was also a different scene where we did rehearse, and it just kind of happened. We found something beautiful that wasn't on the page. So that also happens if that possibility is there. But to answer your question, which was the audition that got away, I don't like to think in those terms because I'm here to grow and improve my skill set. So whatever then has my name on it will find its way to me.
Mm-hmm.
And all the jobs that I've booked, funnily enough, really have my name on it.
They did.
You know, like a light-skinned European foreign guy for Madea, mixed race guy that speaks German, and then Origin, the same story. So it's kind of like sometimes it really has your name on it externally or emotionally or who you are. It's like, oh yeah, I think I am, you know, the best person or one of the best people to play this, you know, after you booked it. Having said that, I think all the way in the beginning, there was an audition for what's the project called? What's it called?
Television, movie.
Movie. It was called. Oh, it was a virtuoso composer who inspired. It was called Chevalier. Chevalier, and it was a black or mixed race actually. Yeah, it was a mixed race composer who inspired Mozart. And the movie came out recently, and the guy who booked it is a lot darker than I am. So it's funny, right? If you would have been like, "Oh, I'm not light skinned enough to book this," like you could have just auditioned for it because people have these thoughts. I something like, "I'm not dark enough, or I'm not this enough, not that. I don't, you know, I can't do that sport or this thing, so I'm not going to audition." But you can. So this part you had to be able to or learn or whatever, or be able to play violin. You had to conduct a sword fight. You had to be drunk. It was a period piece, maybe an accent. Yeah. It's also like, you know, former slave. It had all these things in it, a lot. And I'm just reading it. And I'm like, oh, wow. I just started auditioning, you know? And and I'm like, all right. So I went to the Halloween store, got a whole outfit with the whole, you know, the white hair and all that, and I did the audition. And now in hindsight, I actually think I did a really good job.
And what'd you learn?
Don't go to the Halloween store. Don't.
Full tilt. Don't go full tilt. It's like what's it called? The one that Ben Stiller did, the movie where it's like, you know, you never go full. Don't go full. But Robert Downey Jr. was that's always makes me think of that. But we learn from these. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. A casting director told me dress up like the character, but not if you have to go to the Halloween store for it. Mm-hmm. That was one. The other, I wondered if at that level I would have ever booked a project like that because I had no credits, I think, or maybe one or something. You know, this guy had a lot more credits, and I don't know if I would have done the part justice at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also don't think you should say that you can't do certain things aren't for you. But I'm just like, that was a beautiful audition. I learned, and the universe did not want me to book that. That was for somebody else who did an amazing job. If you look it up now, and that same thing will happen with a different part where somebody else went like, "Oh," and it was my turn. So,
yeah, like Origin, it's your turn. I mean, it's Ava DuVernay. Her projects have just been so remarkably outstanding, life-changing, shedding light on things that a lot of people don't want to talk about, even down to her adapting this book that everybody told her was unadaptable. The story is beautiful. I saw it this week. I have a couple of near dear friends in it. When you were pitched for me for the podcast, I was like, absolutely. I want to hear the story of you getting to audition for this, doing the research for this, and then being in something that is quite eye-opening on so much of how the world has oppressed and how we've dealt with it. You know, like art imitates life, life imitates art. And if we can learn anything from art, it's doing its job. And it's remarkable to be a part of something that is hopefully doing its job. I'm really mad that the Oscars are snubbing some people in here. Really mad. But that's another story. I'm really curious. The fact that Ingenue did not get a nomination for this, like I can't even. She is so remarkable. But let's hear the story. Like, were you given sides for this? How did you put yourself on tape? Did you have to work with Ava? How did the whole audition process go into actually landing the part? I would really love to hear this whole journey.
I came off of, I think, the first 2 weeks of Fear the Walking Dead, and I got I think a call or a text message from Coleman, who said, "Hey, listen, I had dinner with Ava in Savannah where we were shooting, and she was looking for somebody that looks like you." And I said, "Hey, try Isha, and so you might get the call." Oh, snap. Thank you. The extent of that conversation, as I have perceived from both of them, was that at some point during the conversation, Ava said, I'm looking for somebody to play this person. It's a biopic. He needs to look like this guy. It's a mixed race man who speaks German." And yeah, exactly. And on Fear the Walking Dead, my character is German and has a German accent. So Coleman was like, well,
I got the guy.
which is really cool of him. But that's not the part. The part, and she was like, okay, cool. And he showed a picture. He's like, oh, great. But does he know how to act? And Coleman said, yeah, he's got chops. So he vouched for me. You know what I mean? And it's like, after someone vouches for you, you can't go in and either be a jerk or not give it your all.
Mm-hmm.
Is how I see things. Got the call and I was like, all right. So I called my manager and agent. I was like, hey, listen, you might get this call next week. Can we get the script early so I can start working on it? They're like, yeah, we pitched you twice already, but they don't want to see you. Like, what? Yeah, sorry. And I was like, well, you might get the call now. Can I get the script? Could you ask it? And they're like, we'll try again. Or do you have the script? I can start working on it. And they're like, we'll try again. They tried again. They got it back and they said, okay, cool. Here you can try. We got a few. The note from casting was, don't look too modelly. Yeah.
Like, how do I make myself not look how I look? But okay.
Now I think I know what that means. But
okay. For you, did you change lighting? Did you just not?
No, some people show up as a character. When you see them, you look like a certain typecast. As a model, as a dumb blonde, or as a police officer. Some people just show up with a typecast. Break that. You know what I'm saying? I still think it's an interesting note, but whatever. Like, you got to break that. So I always try to change as much as I can. And then at the top of the audition, it says that this character has movie star looks. I walk around thinking about these things or whatever. Like, it's not like something I spend my time on thinking about what I look like or don't look like or whatever. I just like acting and booking parts. But come on, man.
I know.
But I was happy that I got the shot. So, I was like, whatever. I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to do my best. I got it in on a Saturday afternoon. It was due Monday. And it was only a couple scenes. I think it was like 5 pages.
Short scenes, yeah. I mean, in the movie, it end up being short scenes. So I was wondering because short scenes are sometimes harder to do than the 2 or 3 page scene. So I was just curious if they gave you a longer scene to do. And then, you got what was it?
Well, there was a half a page monologue there, one scene which got, cut. But the second scene was in German, and the first scene was, I forgot, but it had a transatlantic accent because he studied at an Ivy League university. So it needed the accent, it needed the German with an American accent, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the monologue. And I was like, okay. And I went for it. It was great. I asked everybody to help me, my girlfriend, my friends, everybody, and to pitch in and help me out and figure it out and break it down. And it really takes a village. Yes. And then halfway through, I realized this is not as easy as I thought it was. Because the monologue had certain concepts that he was conveying in where you have to learn your lines. No, first you have to understand what the person is saying, then you have to kind of, understand how the person will be saying it. Then you have to attach emotions to it, and then you have to drill the lines that you know them full well. And there's the accent in it as well. And and then there's the actual acting of it. And I was like, oh man, like I auditioned for Malcolm X a couple times as well. And I learned there that you can't do a speech like that. You give one of those speeches, you realize really quickly why those people are geniuses or why they're on a certain level. They think and speak in a completely different way. And you also have your acting job on top of that. You have to give it emotion. So it's just double work. And and I Monday I started taping it with one of my buddies, and all the scenes kind of worked. The German was the easier part because of fear, which I also had to get a coach for to make sure I speak that properly. And the other coach, Audrey, for the other accent. But then we were taping it, and then the monologue, and it was like a deadline, and the monologue was falling apart because I didn't know my lines all that well. And then because I didn't know my lines, the accent started coming off, and I was like, oh, my buddy was like, improvise. I'm like, no, fucking improvise. I'm going to tell them I need more time. Like, you're not going to tell them you need more time. Fucking improvise. I'm like, hey. Improvised a couple lines, just did it. And there was one take that was good. And we sent it in, and then a couple of days later, I'm on the call with Ava. It's like,
and part of beautiful cinematic history. Way to work it. I mean, I just have to say, after hearing your journey, I've interviewed so many of my friends. I've interviewed so many dynamic talent. And when you are your authentic self and when you're able to bring so much life to your parts, you're right. What is for you will find you. And every single one of these parts was so beautifully crafted, not only by the writer, but you met it with your instrument that has been so well developed and so well honed, and the work, you're continuing to put in the work, and it shows. Kudos to this. And I want everybody to please go see Origin. Like, how do you feel with the finished product?
Oh, I think it's a beautiful movie in general. Like her physical storytelling, or whatever the right word for it is, or the way her photography and the imagery and how she tells the story is absolutely phenomenal. Every time I watch it, it blows me away.
Is it different than what you thought when you were shooting it? Because everybody I've talked to that's been a part of it, the way they shot it versus how it came together visually was even shocking for them to see from.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't see much of the other settings, and I got to walk in on a different set where there was a concentration camp, which was around the corner from where we were shooting our stuff, which is really weird to walk on set. And you see people that, there were, prison guards and people that were brought there, and then in between takes, they're kind of like being nice to each other, sometimes giggling and laughing. And then, it's like action, they turn it up. It's a really weird experience to see. So that was definitely there. But in the way we worked on a movie, there was so much homework that was given us. I had to read like 5 books. We got poetry bundles, cast, biography, the study my character had done. We got to rehearse over and over. Ava really takes her time to get there. We got to learn how to ride with a typewriter, drive these old cars. I learned how to smoke a pipe, all those things. It was insane.
It was beautiful. It was really, So what's next? What are you on to?
Auditions.
Yes.
Auditions, writing, and it's in classes. I'm doing improv. Singing classes. I have a showcase coming up where I'm singing, but I'm just like, I don't know, probably not going to invite anybody. Just my craft.
Skill set. So in like 2 years, you're going to be on Broadway singing. Can't wait. Let me know.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm up there to harness my voice. I think I have a very deep voice, which is great when I send it, but I need to be able to have these conversations and still send emotionality and still send a certain text.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and sometimes you talk like that. So I'm working on that and improving. So yeah.
This was such a joy to dig deep into your process and to hear how these parts have found you and how you found yourself getting to make a career out of observing people and allowing that to affect your instrument. So thank you. Where can everybody find you? Where can everybody stalk you, Isha?
Right now, it's in the AMC theaters. Origin, go watch it because I think everybody needs to watch that movie. Apart from the fact that I'm in it, it's and otherwise Instagram, Isha Blaaker, first last name, and that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think you're very well prepared, and I love how you step to your craft, and I hope really that you get what you want out of this craft and this industry. I really hope so. You seem like somebody who's really committed about it. So.